Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves, and we're going to be doing that with my deck of I am cards. Each and every one of these cards has a powerful affirmation written on it, and we are going to be really just going through one of them today. I see we have a bunch of folks here, so good morning to everybody. Let's see here who has joined in this morning. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Maya. Good morning, Lauren. It's good to see you ladies here today. Good morning, Dan. What's the temperature in Omaha today, Dan? It's once again below freezing over here, and but it's only about my house is only about half frozen today. Yesterday everything was frozen up, but today only about half my pipes are frozen. Let's see. Good morning, Tammy and Daniel. Good morning, Susan. It is good to see you guys around here today. 12 degrees in Omaha. So yeah. Make sure you continue to stay warm. Good morning, Shauna. Good to see you here today as well. All right, guys, you know how this goes. We're going to pull a card off the top of the deck. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on the card. We are going to respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. As we do that, we are building into our own lives. We are creating a new reality for ourselves, and we are giving ourselves ammunition so that when life does not proceed the way that we think it ought to, that we can reach for better thoughts than we could yesterday. Let's all remember that we are wiser and we are more intelligent and we are more experienced. We are more empathetic than we ever were yesterday, and that we are better equipped today to handle what life has to throw at us than we ever have been before. So yeah, let's have some fun today. Pull a card off the top of the deck and say that today I am open. I am open. I thoughtfully consider new ideas. So I am open. I thoughtfully consider new ideas. Good morning, Brenda Jean. Good to see you here today. Yeah, so the card of the day is I am open. I thoughtfully consider new ideas. Are you open? You are open. You thoughtfully consider new ideas. And I'm going to write that down in the comments. Brenda Jean's already beat me to it. Janet's already beat me to it. Lauren's already beat me to it. Let's see. All right. I am open. I thoughtfully consider new ideas. And I was thinking about this card when I was making it, and as I was making this card, a piece of advice that somebody gave me a very long time ago was running through my head, and that person said the problem with having an open mind is that somebody is going to come along and put something in it. Excuse me. So that's what they told me. They said if you don't have an open mind, because if you have an open mind, somebody's going to come along and put something into that open mind. And I remember thinking about that, considering that piece of advice that they gave me for a little while before ultimately rejecting it, because their paradigms were just so close. When I looked at their life, when I looked at the fruit of their life, they were not a person that was growing. They were a person who had decided what they were going to think, and that was that. And even when other better ideas came along, they refused to consider them because they were operating from this sense of, well, I already know everything that's true, so why on earth would I want to consider other ideas that might not be true? And when I rejected their piece of advice, I thought to myself, okay, well, why am I rejecting this? On what grounds am I rejecting this advice? It's not just that I look at their life and and see that they are living very small, and they're not, they're not living the kind of life that I want to live. So why on earth would I want to follow their advice? But I also thought, well, what they're doing is they're abdicating responsibility. They're saying, well, I already know everything, and so consequently, like I don't need to reconsider what I already think. But reconsidering what we already think and considering new ideas is how we grow. And as we consider new ideas, it's really important for us to solidify our old ideas, the ones that work, the ones that continue to work for us. It would be lazy to not consider new ideas. We have to consider new ideas, but we must do it thoughtfully. We must consider them in such a way that, with the lens, or through the lens of our current life perceptions of what we already realize, what works or what doesn't work for us. And so I am open, and I thoughtfully consider new ideas. I don't. When I was younger, I used to think that, people who were in positions of authority, that their ideas must be better than my ideas simply because they were doing it longer than me, or that they had some position of responsibility. And the fact is that when I was younger, I would just kind of take at face value anything that anybody else said. And as I got older, I recognized that that was not serving me at all. That people, even people who are experts in their field, can be wrong about stuff, and that I have to consider all these ideas through the lens of my own perceptions, through the lens of my own knowledge about what works and what doesn't, because in the end, I'm responsible for my own life. And these other people whose ideas that I was just taking at face value, those people aren't responsible for my life. The philosopher Father Chong says that we have to live our own lives because we're going to die our own deaths. And I think, what he's saying there is that ultimately we are all responsible for ourselves. We are ultimately responsible for the way that we comport ourselves as we go through this life. And so let's be open to new ideas, but let's consider them. And considering ideas takes work. The author Malcolm Gladwell once said that in his book, I forget which book he said it in, but he said most people think they think while having never thought a thought. And what does that mean? Most people think that they think while having never thought a thought. And he went on to say that in order to truly think, that we have to hold two outcomes in our mind, two competing ideas in our mind at the same time, and give them the same amount of weight, and then judge between them, and then select the one that is the best. Whereas most people are quite happy to simply just get the thought that was given to them by an authority figure or by somebody who already agrees with them. Malcolm was talking about, primarily talking about confirmation bias in that chapter, and how we are all confirmation bias seeking by nature, because it's easier and because it's more comfortable. I remember a time when, I was probably in my mid-20s, and I was considering investments, and there was an investment that was very, in retrospect, a terrible investment. Just in retrospect, it was really, really, really bad. And I remember that I thought that it was really bad at the time that I made the investment, but at the same time, my brain was not sufficiently developed for me to consider all of the information, because I just figured that I knew best, that the metrics that I had judged previous investments on would also apply to this other investment, and that's what was going to make it good against all expectations. Well, anyways, I lost about 90% of my capital on that one, so whoops. Learned a valuable lesson, but also learned a bit about myself. I feel like the 90% of my capital that I lost on that investment was paled in comparison. Like, that price was cheap by comparison to what I learned about me. And I feel like one of the things that it taught me was that I can be open to new ideas because I don't know everything, and that just because something has worked for me in the past doesn't mean it's going to work for me in the future. I know that I am surrounded by people who consider new ideas. I'm surrounded by analytic and scientific minds, and and I recognize that the analyticness, or the I don't even know how to use that word, but the fact that the people around me are analytical and really do consider new information before acting and moving has been very powerful for me, because it has helped me to just see examples of how do really smart people think, how do people who are very successful think, and I get a glimpse into the minds of many of my friends as they talk about why they made decisions that they made. And there are many of you here today who are on my personal board of directors, whether you know it or not. I have learned a lot just by listening to how you are open to new ideas, and the criteria that you use to judge new ideas, to weigh them out in your mind. So I see Sean. I caught a comment over there. Shauna says, statistics taught me that anything can be twisted. Lies, damned lies, and statistics, as Mark Twain would put it. But absolutely, statistics, or the statistics is really the study of information and the relationships between information and the conclusions that we can draw, and also the conclusions that we can't draw with given information. So it's basically, how do you apply logic to information analysis? And an interesting story. So when the world shut down as a result of the coronavirus pandemic back in 2019, one of the first things that I did was I took a course in statistics, because I knew that lots of statistics were going to be thrown around, and I wanted to refresh my memory about what conclusions can or can't be drawn from those statistics, because I recognized that people on all different sides of the argument were going to be using and lying with statistics, and that there was going to be some truth in those statistics too, and that it would be very important for me to know how statistics worked again, to refresh my high school understanding of it, and perhaps even gain a college understanding of it, so that I wasn't going to be easily misled by people who had an agenda. And I think that was something that was very powerful for me and helped me to really sift through a lot of the bullshit whenever I saw somebody, somebody, for example, making an argument of, how correlation equals causality. And I'd be like, oh, that's a bullshit argument. That one can be safely ignored. And I think that I navigated it just fine. I navigated that worldwide cataclysmic event just fine, because of my renewed understanding of how data can be manipulated. And also just being able to find out, hey, this is actually true. We can know that this part of it is true, but this other part that they're saying, this story that they're telling about this true data, that doesn't have to be believed as much, or this is something that we'll have to get more information over the course of time. So anyways, I am open and I thoughtfully consider new ideas, and I am so blessed to be around other people who are also open and thoughtfully consider new ideas. I live in a judgment-free community. And one of the most powerful parts of the community is that we consider the ideas of each other. And even if we don't choose to adopt them, we still consider them. And even if I don't always choose to adopt the ideas of the people around me, I recognize that those ideas, born of their life experiences, are valuable. And those ideas which are informed by their values are valuable. And so this card is our invitation today to be open, to thoughtfully consider the ideas of the people around us, to thoughtfully consider whenever we get a new idea served up to us, and ultimately sift these ideas so that they are in keeping with our own highest and best good, as we are becoming the people that we were born to be. I am open. I thoughtfully consider new ideas. And when we get a new idea today, let's thoughtfully consider it. Let's not immediately dismiss it if we disagree with it, and let's not immediately add it to our mental filing cabinet of things that are absolutely true if it supports what we already believe. We are adults, and one of the responsibilities of being an adult is that we have to sift through information and really know and understand what it is that we are being presented with, so that we can continue to live amazing lives. So yeah, let's see what you guys have to say about this. Um, so Brenda Jean says, my challenge is health and fitness and science. I dive so deep into the newest research that when people pitch a new to them find from new social media, I often know it's not true, or if it's just a marketing tactic based on the context info, not science. Yeah. Yeah, Brenda Jean. I mean, whenever I go to your house, I see piles of white papers. I mean, you don't just read the books about this stuff. You go to the source information. I know that you printed out an article for me, and I was reading through that article, and it was about the physiological effects of cold plunging. And as I was reading it, I remember that I actually had to reference one of my statistics books from way back when I was learning about it. I had to dust off my statistics book just to understand one of the charts. And I mean, data like that, data that is just presented in that way can be very, very powerful. But it's only accessible to people who are willing to make the commitment. And it really does take a commitment. And I know that you are a person who is committed to knowing what is true and what really does work. Let's see here. Good morning, Kelly. It's good to see that you have come by today. She says, at traffic court this morning, there's a law about flashing your headlights. Who knew? Yeah. Who knew indeed? Who knew indeed? The laws that we are subject to, oftentimes we have no idea that we're subject to them until after we have been charged with a transgression. In fact, law can do absolutely nothing except create transgression. The more laws that there are, the more transgressions there are possible to be. And you think about it, you're like, well, who on earth wrote a law about flashing your headlights, and what social situation was so important that people that people decided that they wanted to, lawmakers decided that there had to be a law against doing something so benign. Shauna says, I glean ideas from many new areas, but I don't buy into anything 100%. I can understand that, Shauna. The fact is that most ideas are wrapped up in a narrative. Most ideas are wrapped up in something that somebody wants to sell you, some product that they want you to have, or some basket of ideas that they want you to adopt. To say, well, if you have this idea, you must also have this other stream of ideas. I think about like U.S. politics and how U.S. politics is largely separated into two different camps, and that most people who are a member of one of those camps believes that they have to have not just the idea, but a basket of ideas. It's not just one idea that these parties represent, but a whole basket of ideas. And so, if you believe one thing, you also have to believe another. And how reductionist that is, and how that doesn't serve anybody. Because I can't think of anybody I know, except the lowest thinking of individuals, who says that, well, I believe in the inviolable truth of absolutely everything that my political party stands for. Most people select a political party. If they even do select a political party, they select the one that most closely aligns with their values, but not the one that completely aligns with their values. And sometimes I will meet people who have selected a side and just completely adopt everything that side has to say. And that's how I know that they haven't really thought about it all that deeply. They found something that aligns reasonably with their values, and then said, okay, well, because this aligns reasonably with my values, I'm going to just believe everything. And I feel like when I related the story earlier today about somebody who said the problem with an open mind is that somebody's going to come along and put something into it. I recall now that philosophy, that that thing, I remember I actually heard it on the radio, and I actually heard it on a religious radio station, and that person was essentially talking about the unwisdom of learning about other religions, because if you've already found the right religion, then why on earth would you why on earth would you ever go and study other religions? Why, you already have the truth, so why would you waste your time studying the lies? And of course, how silly that is. When we study other religions, and I am a student of world religions, we understand that they are more the same than they are different, and that the people that are cast as evil in one religion are not that way at all. That many of them are just as devout and just as just as sure about the story that they believe as we are, or as you are, or as I am about the story that I believe. And so I have rejected the idea that we had that having an open mind means somebody's going to come along and put something into it, and that's bad. Nobody puts anything into our mind. We have a filter, and we are allowed to use it. Let's see. Janet says, I'm a living, loving, and actively creating a life that I never could have scripted. I am glad that I am open to my intuition and open to new possibilities. Amen to that, Jan. You really are living, loving, and actively creating a life that you never could have scripted. I watch your life. I watch your growth. I watch your development, just like I watch the life and growth and development of all the people around me. And when I see it, they say you'll know a tree by its fruit. And the fruit around your tree is beautiful, delicious, sparkling, magical, happy fruit. And when I see that, I recognize that you are on the right path. So you just keep on being open to new ideas, open to your intuition, open to possibility. Let's see. Okay, so, and Janet continues, my intuition makes me feel safe in my openness to new things. I know that my intuition will let me know if a new thing is for me or not. Many people describe that as like a gut feeling, Janet. And there's actually there's some limited amounts of science to back that up. There's an institute called the Heart Math Institute. And essentially, the premise of the Heart Math Institute is that we know things before we can logically know them, that our hearts have a type of an intuition which can be studied and measured. They did an experiment where they actually they would show people images, and some of these images would be just pleasant images, person running through a field, or beautiful flower, or group of people smiling, and that others of these images would be terrible images of war, images of people who've been murdered, images of terrible accidents, horrible things that you would never want to look at and that you wouldn't really ever want to seek out. And they were able to show experimentally that the heart would actually have a reaction to the image before the eye had even seen the image, which is to say that there was some form of intuition happening. It was a very interesting study. It was done by the Heart Math Institute, and they were basically, their mission was to prove that intuition is real, or that our hearts could know things, that our subconscious could know things before we had any logical proof, before we had any concrete evidence of those things. And it showed that the heart would display warning signs before those terrible images would prop up. And that the heart would open up, the heart would kind of relax before the nice images would pop up. And it was a very interesting study that they did. But it's called the Heart Math Institute if you'd like to check out their work. Let's see. Dan says, new ideas drive change. Change is inevitable. Yes, sir, it is. And new ideas really do drive change. And so we have to consider a new idea before we're going to act differently. So we consider a new idea, and then based on that new information, if we decide to adopt it, then we act differently. One time I was working, in a manufacturing facility, and we were making what's called an end bell, which is basically the end cap for an electric motor. And I remember that I changed the program up. I worked in the CNC milling department, and computer controlled mills, which were basically machines that would do drilling and tapping and carve parts out of metal. And I remember that I was looking at the program, after making about several thousand of these. And I said, this program can be done better. In fact, not only can this program be done better, but because of new advances in technology and new advances in the tooling that we're using we're using new tools, but we're using old techniques. And so I reprogrammed it. And, I reprogrammed it, and then I went and told my boss, and I said, hey, just so you know, I reprogrammed this, and, we've saved this amount of time. And, so instead of making 200 of these a day, we're going to end up making, about 350 of these a day. And I remember that my boss rebuked me and said, we've been doing it the same way for 15 years. Why on earth would we change it now? And man, in my heart of hearts, I just wanted to just yell back at him. Well, if you've been doing it the same way for 15 years, then you've been doing it wrong for about 14 years and 6 months. Because when we make these things and we don't revisit them, then what, you think your competition isn't revisiting this? Just because we've been doing it the same way for 15 years doesn't mean that we should do it with that. That means that we've been screwing up. That means that you aren't doing your job. And of course, I couldn't say that because I wanted to keep my job. But I remember that I quit that job shortly thereafter because I could not handle that kind of mindset, which also permeated every other aspect of the business. Let's see. So, yeah, and Brendan Jean talks again about conditional bias. We recognize only the things that we already agree with. It's so easy to do that, and it reinforces what we already believe, and it feels good when we get confirmational information, but it doesn't serve us at all. So let's see here. Good morning, Teresa. Good to see you. Brendan Jean says, I understand that you may have done the right thing, but without consulting your boss and bringing your idea forward and making him a part of the solution, you cut him out of the process, and that's not good for business, relationship, or trust. I understand where you're coming from, Brendan Jean. I attempted to make him a part of the process by saying, hey, that I've done this thing. It didn't in any way hurt the business, and it certainly didn't. I don't feel like it hurt my boss's credibility. I just changed it back. I just said, okay, well, do you support me in doing this? And the boss said, nope, I don't support that at all. And I said, okay, no problem. And so I just changed it back, and they're probably still doing it the same way that they were beforehand. But the fact that we had different philosophies meant that I had to do what was best for me and what was best for the business by leaving that team. And so that team lost me, and it lost my, that team lost they lost me and I lost them. And in the end, they're probably still making end caps at the same exact rate. And so, I have, I recognize that I certainly might not have done that the right way earlier on in my career. But, to me, it just showed that the way that I thought and the way that my boss thought were very different ways of thinking. And so, it was best for me not to be on a team where I couldn't get along with the other people who were on it. And so I decided that it was time to go, and I left. And I'm sure that they are very happily continuing to make those parts the same exact way they always have, assuming that they're still in business and that their competitors haven't overtaken them with the better technology that has been developed over the years. All right. So anyways, I will be back again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you guys so much for being here and for supporting this broadcast. I'm going pretty long today, and the fact is that I really appreciate that anybody's willing to give me 32 minutes of their time first thing in the morning. You guys are awesome. I know that everybody has things to do, so I will return tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will be here again with another wake-up call, another empowering card, and it being Thursday today, tomorrow being Friday. Not only will I pull a card tomorrow, but we will also go over the cards for the week, and we'll go over the cards for the week, and it's just really to tell the story of where we were and where we are, and ultimately come to a better understanding of where we are going. All right, so I will talk to you guys later. Just as I leave, just another reminder that I love you, that I care about you, that I believe all of these things about you, and that I am excited to see where we are all going together. Until we meet again, aloha from paradise.